The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening and a warm welcome to the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karohanga. You are watching Digitalk TV on this particular Monday evening. And as you well know, every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m., we're always here having a conversation with Uganda, and we always host different political factions or different political parties to come and just paint a roadmap for how Uganda will be or how better Uganda can be. So every Monday, thank you so much for always tuning in. This particular evening, I am honored and privileged to be with two candid and gentlemen from Uganda. These people have served the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and they have also contributed to the politics of Uganda and of course how better Uganda is today. One of them is a founding member of the Alliance for National Transformation. I'll just stop on that because he has a lot of decorums and a lot of titles, but I'll just stop from there. That is General Retired Mugisha Gregory Muntu. And of course, I have a gentleman from the National Resistance Movement. He is the head of External Affairs, or he's the director of the External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. That is Ambassador Retired Major Counsel Pollar Awich. This evening, we're going to be talking about how different political parties are organizing, especially as we are gearing up to the 2026 elections. Some opposition parties have already shown interest in participating in this election. The National Resistance Movement, through its head, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has also given us a roadmap for the National Resistance Movement, and it looks like most of the political parties are ready for this particular campaign or election period. The question is, how better can these elections be, and of course, how different can they be? In the past, we have had elections that have been marred by some irregularities, stealing of elections, but also violence that has led to many people getting injuries, but also some losing their lives. So how better can this particular campaign be? And of course, if you're tuning in, feel free to send in some of your comments. I am seeing a couple of people who are already tuned in here. I'll be reading some of your messages subsequently as we continue with the program. Before we start this particular discussion, allow me congratulate the King or Kabaka of Buganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, upon his 70th birthday. Yesterday, the whole of Buganda came out in big numbers to support this particular cause. Remember, this particular run is for raising awareness and fund to fight the problem of HIV/AIDS. This is not the first time that this birthday run has been going on. But yes, we want to celebrate with Buganda Kingdom. Generally, you know, as the Kabaka makes 70 years, it's not always something that you find every day that the Kabaka of Buganda, or any person really, makes that age. So we want to celebrate with the Buganda Kingdom. Then in just some of the insights we have this evening, it is the World Health Day. Yes, globally the world is celebrating health, and a good statistic I'm reading here is that 40% of maternal deaths have been reduced in this country as we speak today. Yes, that is not new, but it's actually the truth that 40% of maternal deaths have been reduced in Uganda. Can we say we have made some positive change in the health sector? I'll be asking some of my panelists here to tell me what they think about that particular statistic. But also, there is a worrying issue of civilians fighting the people in uniform. The latest being what happened in Uganda, where a policeman was lynched by a mob and he was killed, unfortunately. And the police has already started investigating that particular case, and 29 people have been arrested around Ibanda. The gentleman who was killed, his name is Afande Chemonges Sulaiman. Yes, he was killed by a mob in Ibanda. Yeah, so I hope there's something that we can do about this, especially as the people themselves. Why is it that people are now meting their anger on the security operatives? And was this just an isolated incident, or it's now becoming a pattern? I'll also ask my panelists this evening. And if you're just joining us, we are streaming live on different social media platforms. At YouTube, we are The Alternative Uganda, but also at Digitalk TV. We're also streaming on Facebook. That is The Alternative Uganda and Digitalk TV. You can send your messages on either platform. I'll be reading them subsequently. Just once again, my name is Edgar Matthew Karohanga, and I'm privileged to be joined by General Mugisha Muntu, who is a founding member of the Alliance for National Transformation, and Major Pollar Awich from the National Resistance Movement. You're most welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great. I'll start with you, General. It's been a while since we last had you on the hotline. How are you, and how is the Alliance for National Transformation?
I'm well, and Alliance for National Transformation is doing well as well. Thank you, Digitalk, for hosting us. Thank you, Edgar, for hosting us. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate His Royal Highness, the King of Buganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, for celebrating his 70th birthday, and to thank all those who participated in the run. And we have a busy year this year, as you've already indicated, an electoral year.
So
I don't expect so much change, because I do not detect that there is a change of heart in those who are managing the national affairs. And when you look at our constitution, you look at the laws, if those who were managing power really cared about the country, the well-being of the people, the laws are adequate enough. If they were applied in good faith, would be able to have a free, fair, and transparent election.
okay.
Unfortunately, those who are in power, their main focus is how to hang on to it at any cost. And therefore, as has happened in the a number of electoral cycles we've gone through, they'll still go ahead and do what they have always done, manipulate the electoral process, the use of money, use of fear and intimidation as a tool of coercing people to vote different from what they desire.
You know, before we enter that discussion, I wanted to first pick your mind on Buganda itself.
Yes.
This region has been pivotal, especially in shifting power in this country. But there is a kind of feeling that Buganda has not been really given a consideration. For example, recently there was a map that had alienated Buganda region. When Chagulanyi was voted by Buganda,
Yes.
It was called tribalism. When you look at Buganda generally and
Yes.
politically, one would say, is there a problem with them, or is the country ganging up to just attack Buganda as a region? What do you think? Especially politically.
It's just political manipulation that started in 1962.
Mm.
Because those who've managed power so far always play on the mind of the public. One, unfortunately, human beings are emotional beings, and it's not just in a particular country or a particular race, but generally we are emotional beings.
Mm.
And the societies differ depending on the levels of political consciousness. Now, in countries where those who manage power over a period of time build a new culture in the country, a culture of governance, normally you find that through civic education, through political work, through party work, the consciousness of the people is raised, and they start operating above emotions. They start organizing around interests. Now we are still we have a challenge here in Uganda. Majority of the people are driven more by emotion rather than interest.
Mm.
Because when you look all over the country, when we evolve to a level where people are driven more by interest rather than emotion. This issue of Westerners, Baganda, Bacholi, Langi, Kalamajong, West Nilers, will basically start dissipating. Why? Because if you go in any part of this country now, and for example, look at the peasants, their living conditions are the same, basically. They all go to hospitals, they don't get drugs. Many of them sell their cows, they sell their, bibanja, they send their kids to school, they finish universities, they don't get jobs. Except a few people who are in government, normally, and that happens because when there are those in government, when they are not, when they have not built institutions which are stable, institutions which are run on the basis of fairness, on justice, and creating an environment where there are equal opportunities. Then you find that people gravitate more towards, or they associate more with, what they are attached to emotionally. And most times you'll find it is either religion or ethnicity. Okay. That's what the problem is. The problem is not with Buganda, the problem is not with the West, the problem is not with the East, the problem is not with the North. The problem is the issue of governance.
Okay, lastly, as I invite Major Awich.
Because you picture it this way. If we had systems which are transparent, for example, if there was no nepotism, if any kid from a university, from any of the districts could access a job without knowing anybody, without having an uncle, or aunt, or mother, or father, or a friend of family in government, do you think these problems that we are talking about would be talking about? Of ethnic problems that we do face? We wouldn't. So that's where we would have to focus. The question is building leaders who have that thinking and they work in concert. First, they have to build the numbers to be able to influence the culture.
Okay.
Because there's no other way you can.
You mentioned emotions, and my question is, how did we get here? Is this a historical issue? Is it entrenched in the people?
It's historical. Because when you look at a country like Tanzania, Nyerere deliberately, consciously worked towards building a nation. And eventually he turned Tanzania from being a country to a nation. Tanzanians look at themselves as Tanzanians. It's not that they want, there was a possibility for them, because they have got more ethnic groups, by the way, than us. They have got 120.
I was about to say, at least they have one language, one would say that can unite.
Yeah, it was part of the Nyerere's deliberate effort of building Tanzania to be one. And that's why he introduced Swahili as as a national language. And here in Uganda and Kenya, the leaders who led after independence seem not to have either known how to do that, or they didn't care, or maybe they desired to manipulate the society.
How about the current leader now? Because
General Museveni has exacerbated the problem. What the nature of UPC, I think Pollar was his background is UPC, coming from Lango. My background is UPC. I come from Ankole.
Oh.
I have bumped into many people who have a background of UPC, who seem not to want to accept that there were errors in the 60s. For me, I know for sure that there were errors. My father was the chairman of UPC in the whole of Ankole. He was also a minister in the Ankole government.
Yes, sir.
And he was close to the top leadership of UPC. I could see that there were errors. Okay. And the culture of deception and manipulation in politics. Because like in Ankole, they used to have a common word in the UPC. When it came like to elections, call it changa changa, meaning manipulate, basically. So there are things which were accepted then, and they kept on growing, and nobody has ever come on the national scene to check them. General Museveni came on board, and he has exacerbated them, multiplied them, I don't know how many, deliberately, intentionally. Because his main focus is control and maintaining power at any cost.
Okay.
So he has in his application of deception, he has outclassed what UPC did in the 60s.
Thank you, General.
And in terms of manipulation,
yes, sir.
And also in terms of application of fear as a tool of control.
Let me first bring in Major. Just a message you should go with. Brooke Williams says you should consider inviting General Muntu at least once in 2 weeks. We need his intellectual advices and knowledge to our struggle. Based on your submissions, he already is thinking. Major Awich, as you give us your opening remarks, what's your comment on Kabaka making 70 years? But also the issue I raised to General Muntu. Buganda feels like this country has ganged up on them generally, and we have dubbed them something they are not, tribalist, and some of those sentiments, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. My opening remarks is first to thank being with General Muntu, is my afande. And you know, the NRA being an army was a big army, so it is not easy that you would have met somebody. For example, I've never operated with General Tinyefunza, but I've operated with him. And I can know for a fact that we had this task at this time and we did it. And especially him, as he's my senior, he has ever deployed me for tasks that I accomplished. So it is good that I know him, he knows me. Because as I said, the army was big, you couldn't know everybody. You would just be lucky that some operation put you together at some time. That is when you get to know somebody. I've never operated with Tinyefunza, so he doesn't even know me. So, but he may know. So it is good to be together tonight. The other thing is the comment about the birthday of Kabaka is good, especially where there was some time, a lot of social media about his health. It is good that he's healthy, he's 70 years. Ideally, the life expectancy in Uganda is 60 years, having been pulled by NRM from 43 to 60. So now we're at 60. So meaning that in normal jokes, you said if you are above 60, you are living on borrowed age. For maybe the child who died of malaria, you borrowed the age from that child. And then that is what it actually means by average life expectancy.
Yes, sir.
So it is 70 years, it is good, and we wish Kabaka more years. As NRM, we did participate at various angles and various groups, not one solid group. As a political party, our intervention and supporting and participation was in many aspects. So that is it, and we wish Kabaka many more years to come. Now, about the issue of Buganda, my view is that maybe it is the responding from our cadres, NRM cadres. But for me, I wouldn't take offense if a particular region takes a political position. For example, in the 1980 election of Obote, our friend Oceano has said that in their political theater room, UPC in 1980 had ruled out that they would not get a single vote in Buganda. They ended up getting Samwire Mugisha. Now, UPC said for them they are known, they will not get any support, and that was okay for them. So it means in their calculation they are to get votes from other areas. And this happens. For example, if you look at the South African election recently, Juma, former president's party, swept nearly the whole of Zulu. And then you would find ANC in some parts of the country. Tanzania seemed to have been cohesive in terms of avoiding tribalism, but I'm yet to do a research to see whether there's a particular pattern where CCM also sweeps some particular area. Even if you look at America, they always put you the map. You see this area is red, traditionally red, this is traditionally blue, this is traditionally red. It shows in the American map. So that's why I'm saying, if it so happens that Buganda responds and votes in a particular way, it is us who respond to that voting that causes more problem by starting to make accusation and do that. That is it. But it was normal all over the world. Voting patterns take place. Now, what I would want is that, and the beauty with us is, unlike the UPC election of 1980, UPC election of 1980 or Uganda election of 1980 was on a parliamentary democracy where the winning party takes the majority. I mean, the majority party in parliament forms a government. For us in this case, the presidential election is on one vote counted. Meaning, therefore, even if we lose members of parliament, or even if, say, Nup, president wins Museveni in Buganda, but those votes that we get, the little that we get, counts a lot. For example, the vote that we get in Kampala alone, even when Nup has won, is more than Karamoja, which would have 100% voted for Museveni. So that's why I'm saying me personally wouldn't take offense, because they are voting that way, but we struggle and get what we can.
You don't take offense, but your president has taken offense.
That is why I'm saying the response to this is the problem. So I would urge in whatever forum that I have, whether in NEC, whether in SEC, whether in national conference, to say, let us look at it this way. Good enough by my status, I have access to many forums, nearly all forums of the party.
Exactly.
So, imagine a vote in Kampala where Bobi Wine has defeated Museveni. But the votes that we have got so far in Kampala is more than Karamoja combined. So, let us do what we can. If the voting pattern goes against us, is in only as far as winning is concerned. but not that we get zero. It's okay. The pattern happens all over the world. In South Africa, as I said, you find the party for the former president, Jacob, sweeping an area. ANC maybe being in the Kosa area. Okay, Kosa area and the Western Cape and all that. And then Eastern Cape, which is the Zulu area, which Eastern Cape is taken by Jacob. Same thing all over the world. So, for me, we shouldn't be emotionally responding to this vote. We should just know that even if in Uganda, Bobi Wine beats Museveni, for example, by 60%, those 40% of the vote are still big enough. Remember, we are adding to the national grid. It's okay.
But okay.
You know, we have politicians here who are so, I don't know what word to use. They play on people's minds. And the biggest challenge we have is that we have many more people who are involved in politics now pursuing personal interests and also money and power rather than look at the national interest. Because if we had a majority of leaders within the political sphere who care more about the country, when you have got a support base and then it shifts, your reaction would be to find out why has it shifted. Because it is not as if Uganda rejected NRM right away, no. Actually, Uganda and the West have been the base of NRM for a long time.
Yeah.
And we used to walk into a lot of questions in the North and the East as FDC, because that's where we had our strongholds. And all the time, they would support change. Then Uganda and the West were stuck with NRM. And then they would be asking, but when are they going to shift? We keep on fighting, trying to change the status quo, but Uganda and the West keep on supporting NRM.
Yes.
Now, Uganda shifted just recently, in 2021. That's after how many years? More than 20 years.
Yes.
So how on earth could anybody in NRM not even be grateful for the period that Uganda supported NRM? Even to start saying that this shift was ethnic influenced. But Semogere ran with Museveni. Semogere, you know, is from Uganda.
I remember.
And Uganda didn't support him.
Exactly.
So why would they now say that because Uganda region has supported Honorable Bobi Wine, that therefore now that makes them tribalistic? That's crap.
Let me
When you look at the leaders who use that kind of reasoning as a way of manipulating the public mind, they are negative, and they can be a problem for the whole country.
Yeah, because one would say Museveni was voted in Ankole overwhelmingly, but that wasn't tribalism itself. But Major, do you think that this is intentional by your government to create these divisionisms among the people? Because as Jen was submitting, you had that Mr. Museveni knows about this. So can we say that this is a deliberate issue by the state or by government itself to create these divisions among Ugandans?
First of all, my comment about Honorable General Muntu's point on not finding a cause. We have done a lot of research as a party.
Yes, sir.
Including Busoga. The research was particularly done by Honorable Seninde, who is the Director of Mobilization. We commissioned a lot of research to find out why. So even if I don't mention here, it is not to say that the party has not endeavored to find why the change of the support base. We all know that for several times President Museveni has been saying Luero is his Mecca. And when this change came, a lot of research was done. So just to allay General Muntu's fear whether it was not done, it was done. And we did for Busoga as well. So Honorable Seninde commissioned reports, which we thought was an expert opinion finding in a very professional way of finding reasons for a particular cause in society. And we have the report in our desk, and it is upon us to address it. And we are trying, by the way. We are trying to do it. So about that, it is done. Now, whether or not there is a deliberate effort to create division, I have not even known that the division has been created. What happens is that a feeling came up in Buganda not to support NRM. So do you create a division from the top, or a division is created from the bottom? My opinion is that what you're calling division, which is a manifestation of lack of support, is not a creation by government. This lack of support came from the feelings of the people. Maybe you could now, that goes back to the research, why this feeling came at a particular time. So if you know the reason which came at a particular time, the dissatisfaction of the people, like Muntu had referred to, maybe the other feelings like job, or equality in getting job as perceived by people, then that is it. So you can't say this multiplicity of reasons was like President Museveni woke up and said, I'm creating a division. So you can see that this apparent division, which is manifested by withdrawal of support from NRM, it is bottom top, not top bottom. It came from the people. Now, why it came, why the consciousness went to the minds of the people? Consciousness is always a materiality, not a spirituality. So it is now asked to find what are those materiality that affected the consciousness of the people and made it come from the bottom. And that's what I'm saying. We have done that research with the Seninde, and we have found out.
True. There's something we're also forgetting, that the map of Uganda had alienated Buganda. And it looks like small an issue, but it's actually big. How can, because you both came out, just for clarity, the bank, a fact-checking organization, fact-checked this and realized that you both came out to apologize and said we had made a mistake. My question to you, Major, is how incompetent are we to make such a mistake?
Now, that map, I saw it and I was a little also worried, because the map chose to mention parts of Uganda as by colonial regional setting. The colonial regional setting would say Ankole region, Kigezi region, Taiso region, Karamoja, Bugisu, etc., Lango. Now, this was the colonial setting of regionalization of Uganda. So some people were saying, if that is how it could go, the colonial setting was also Buganda. Now, for some reason, this map drawer, who does not sit on plot 10, where my party headquarters is, chose to do this. But of course, you'd say, being a party in power, either through government, we had an idea. But it looks like the person who did this was a consultant by Ministry of Education. And either his negligence or something put it there and put Buganda as central as opposed to Buganda. But the interpretation to some other people was saying, which is not clearly the intention of government or party. They were saying that since now you have the entire cattle corridor from that district which borders Kirihora, Liatoni, to Sembabule, Mitiana, picking up from Nakasongola, backward before Nakasongola, these other districts with cattle keepers. So you are saying this as ethnically people who are not Baganda. Then you are saying Kampala being in Buganda, it has mixed people. But still, whatever it is, even in Acholi,
so that was the criteria you say? To say, because this has a multitude of different
that argument collapses.
We can call it a central.
That argument collapses because even in Lango, we have other tribes.
Exactly, that's what I was
going
to say.
So would you choose calling it Lango because they are Banyankole who are resident in Lango? Because they are Karamojong who are resident in Lango? No, it wouldn't. So I think this era that is apparently giving us the ruling party Lubengo is because an era of some expert in the Ministry of Education.
For me, it's
So,
not about the error itself, it's how the error could not be detected.
Because this expert did it and released the publication.
It was UBOS that released the publication.
But I think UBOS, I think, in one of the questionnaires, I think UBOS asked for ethnicity, right?
You know,
they ask. So the UBOS should be knowing that Buganda, those who answered respondents as being Buganda, are the biggest in Uganda.
Okay.
So there's no way you would leave an area, especially if in your respondents, in your questionnaire, during the enumeration, if you ask such a question, and you know that the respondents, at least by Uganda demographics, Uganda are the biggest. So I think we are carrying this Lubengo on that erroneous map by the education consultant who heralded in his or her own right.
Okay.
And I think there was an apology to that.
Yeah,
effect.
it was. There
was an apology
that
to that
UBOS came out to apologize that this was just a mistake that we made. But for me, it's how we can make such a mistake. You know, there's something you want
But
to
didn't they
say.
make something bigger than that?
You know.
UBOS, just a minute.
Yeah, there is also something.
Apart from this map, UBOS made bigger mistakes. You
Exactly.
remember where they changed Mugisha for Teso and a Teso for Ankole, whatever it is.
All these incompetencies.
They have made bigger mistakes than the map.
Yesterday, the Electoral Commission confirmed that they are not going to be using the statistics or data of UBOS. They don't trust UBOS. And this is the collecting body. And I repeat, it looks small, but it's big.
But of course, you can see their mistake giving me the Lubengo.
in a country where you find ethnic or racial suspicions or animosities, normally that's a symptom of a larger problem. The foundation of that kind of situation normally is lack of justice and transparency in the management of public affairs. So when you fix those, it doesn't matter whether you have 1,000 ethnic groups or 1,000 religious groups. So you'll find harmony in that society.
Exactly. So you are saying this is a systems issue. It's not just what we are seeing.
It's a symptom of a problem, a foundational problem. Where you don't have justice, where you don't have transparency, where you don't have equal opportunities. So anybody who wants to sort out all that, fix those. And then all these animosities, suspicions will simply evaporate. Because when you have justice, when you have fairness, when you have transparency, when you have equal opportunities, ethnic and religious emotions no longer take center stage. People will remain Banyankore, Baganda, Bateso, Karamajong, they remain Langi, Acholi, Lugubara. They remain Catholics, they remain Protestants, Pentecostals, and Muslims. But they are not at the center stage of their lives.
Yeah,
they are secondary.
I get you.
Because the primary issues are being resolved. Your kid has come out of university, they don't know anybody, but they have got qualification, they get a job.
Yes.
You go to hospital, you find that there is good treatment.
So why would it matter which tribe I am?
So the only problem that generates all these animosities and suspicions is when there is a lack of those fundamentals. Justice, equal opportunities, transparency in the management of public affairs. Once you fix those, you can even allow people to go on City Square and agitate from morning until evening for a year. and if those issues are fixed, I can tell you that no government would even be worried about anybody who's expressing any form of grievances once those fundamentals are taken care of.
Okay. 42 minutes past the top of the hour of 7. You're watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I'll come to you, Major. You are undertaking what I call a tedious task, and you're sure you're going to regain Buganda. That is one of the quests that NRM government has said, that this Kisanja, you want to regain Buganda. Is this practical, and how?
I don't know whether I would now approach that from the main topic, why we are here.
No, that we still have an hour and more minutes.
So you want me to answer specific on how?
Specifically?
How we are going to regain Buganda.
If you
Yeah.
intend.
We
That was the
intend.
first
We
question,
definitely
yeah.
intend. We definitely intend.
Or
Well, I
you
think
have
they
gi- or you have
already,
given up.
they already
No.
mentioned that they are
We
going for
definitely
Uganda.
intend to regain Buganda,
Yes, sir.
and we think we shall. Multiplicity of things. First of all, we have had our manifesto, which we drew for this electoral cycle of 5 years. We meticulously
Yes, sir.
implemented it, and without due feeling like we lost in this area. If anything, we even were more keen with a lot of due diligence in the implementing in areas that we lost. And we have a multiplicity of those issues in the manifesto. Things like PDM, things like youth fund, all these things, you can list them.
Okay.
So we have been doing it. And we, as I said, we are keen more doing in areas that we lost, because President Museveni is behaving, and he has done it even to opposition members. He still believes in the Bible saying that when you have you have 99 sheep, you have lost one to make 100. You leave the 99 and go and look for the other one sheep that is lost. Okay. So rather than concentrate on areas that we have won, like Ankole, we did concentrate on the implementation. Okay. Two is that we have been doing the research that, as we said, and therefore those research-based findings, we are trying to implement them one by one. Some I may not go in for it now, okay, but we are doing it. You might have also seen, as far as people persuasion is concerned, you have seen among the multiplicity a group of Baganda members of parliament or ministers. Of course, all ministers are members of parliament, but some members of parliament are not ministers.
Yes, sir.
But we have had lately a group of Buganda, including the Attorney General, moving all over the place and talking to the people to tell them the intentions of the party and how good it is. Okay. So the approach is, sorry, the approach is on the economic aspect, on the well-being of the people. There are a lot of programs ongoing.
So, okay, you're
and
mainly...
then on the what you could call the idea aspect, on the talking and the persuasion, we are talking.
Okay, we shall even delve more in that conversation. But I have a question here. But thank you so much for watching. I'll just mention a few names. We have Namirembe Angela. Thank you so much for watching. Lukwago Eva Vanda Zaden. Emi Katabazi, Ntale Lud, Brooke Williams Chikomeko, Mwesige Joram, you are watching, but there is an interesting question that is coming from a gentleman, Kamoga Franklin. Kamoga says, comment on the exorbitant fees charged on, fees charged on Council Aaron Kiza. Okay, thank you so much. We shall also comment on that issue. General, as we comment on the issue of, I think let's talk about it in the next hour, but this particular issue of the 20 million bail for Council Aaron Kiza. The thing is not about the bail, but the magnitude of the amount. This bail, we also had it in the case of Dr. Besigye, 30 million. Dr. Besigye at least said, no, please remind me, this bail is unreasonable, and it was slashed up to 3 million. What is in these exorbitant fees charged on such cases?
Because once you're a target, they use all manner of tools to suppress you. They use, like in that case, one, it started, if you look back, yes, sir, the military courts. It's not that there was public resistance, and now the cases were shifted to the civil courts. So they will use all manner of tools, including bail money, hoping that you are not able to raise it, to push you, to crack you,
say this is
to break
just a
you
lawyer.
down.
This is not Mugisha Muntu. He's just Council Aaron Kiza.
The whole purpose of targeting people who are figures of resistance is to break them down. General Museveni has used that tool in a way that is quite devastating to our society. Because he recognizes that when leaders break down, the people scatter, basically, or lose hope or become frustrated. Because leaders are the ones who are key organizers for resistance against oppression. So they use different methods. For some, they will use enticements. There are those whom they have broken down by giving them jobs. There are those whom they have broken down by bribing them with money. There are those whom they have broken down by use of fear. There are those whom they have broken down through intimidation. And those who remain standing, they use all manner of methods to harass you until you reach a point and say, why on earth should I be going through this? So the more they break down, the more they exercise control over society. And therefore, they keep on hanging on to power. That's the whole thing.
You're keeping on using the word they, and you've also used the word Museveni, Mr.
General Museveni and
Are
the
you
clique
meaning
around
that
him.
General Museveni or this government actually, people affect the court? The judiciary is supposed to be independent,
Oh,
sir.
there is no institution which they don't manipulate. They operate behind the scenes, you know, to manipulate parliament, to manipulate the courts, to manipulate the Electoral Commission, to manipulate the state security apparatus. And that is not only General Museveni. I mean, all authoritarian regimes literally almost operate from the same text, you know. You look at the Saddams of this world, you look at the Gaddafis of this world, you look at the Bokassas, you look at the Mobutus, all of them. Almost, you'll find a little bit of variations, but the same methods which are used. Now, unfortunately, people suffer in the countries where they are from, but the good thing is that it is not endless. It always reaches a point when it collapses. Always, you know. The only difference is that whoever uses the same methods, before they fall, they already think that they are the exception. That's why they don't run from the rest. They think that, this one didn't do it well, here he made a mistake, there they made a mistake, I am the exception, I won't fall. They all fall.
Okay. Yeah. This one you're saying before says he's a master. He says, I'm now a master of leadership. Let me come to you, Council. And I've called you Council.
Let's keep watching this situation. I mean, look at Zimbabwe. Mugabe goes down, Mnangagwa comes in, continues the same path, and now you can see the situation that is building up.
I saw him bringing a 72-year CDF. Let me come to you, Council. You know? I'm calling you Council deliberately for you to just highlight on what it means to get bail. What is the criteria, you as a lawyer, that is followed when imposing bail or giving bail to some individual? But also, what is your comment on the specific case of Council Iron Kiza?
Well, true, you're referring to me as a counsel. Indeed, I'm a counsel. I am an advocate of what we refer to in joking legal terms as an advocate of high court, superior, and subordinate courts. And indeed, I have a practicing certificate to date for this year. So I'm really an advocate. Now, at first I would like to say that the question of independence of judiciary has always been used by leaders and politicians selectively. When the judiciary rules against a matter that could be of interest to government,
yes, sir,
they say judiciary is very good, very independent. When the same judiciary rules in a matter that appear to be in interest of the government negatively, in their opinion, the judiciary is not independent. So it will continue to be a running battle, whether or not the judiciary is independent. But for some of us who are practicing lawyers and even in the political realm, I have never gone to a judge to influence anything. And I believe the party doesn't, because I know. Now, about bail. By the way, many people mistake bail as that everybody has a right to a bail. You think so?
I thought so.
Nobody has a right to bail. There's no animal called right to bail. There's only right to apply for a bail. You have a right to apply, not a right to bail itself.
Okay.
So now when you apply, when you exercise your right to apply, it leaves the discretion to the judicial officer. First of all, bail is argued on the side of the applicant and on the side of the state, the DPP, Uganda in that case. Now, it is this argument between the two that forms the outcome of the fees levied. Ordinarily in sentencing, there's what is called sentencing guidelines. Even where a judge exercises discretion, it's just not from the blue. There's a guideline. Judges have it on their table. So same applies to the bail. Now, for a judicial officer to reach at a particular decision like that, both parties have argued. And if the discretion is exercised so badly, that is why you saw in the BSJ case, they had to make an argument and revoke it or rescind it.
So
Therefore,
what qualifies the rescinding of that money to say that we had chosen 20 million? Now, according to the knowledge you have, I think 3 million is okay. What informs that decision?
That's why I didn't read that particular case or the facts of that case. But what I wanted to say, and which I'm still saying, is that a discretional rule, power by the judicial officer is there, and it is embodied on their independence. Remember, this judicial officer took the oath of office, the oath of independency, and to carry out their judicial task.
Okay.
So, I would want to see these particular facts. What were the arguments brought for and against? Because I think Nicholas Opio.
Yes.
Nicholas Opio argued that case.
Yes.
And I have not heard him complain about the 20 million. So I don't know as counsel whether he was convinced that he lost the argument, because the state must have argued as to why they wanted that prohibitive amount, because that amount, considering the jurisprudence of Uganda, is quite high. So I've not heard of
what do you mean by prohibitive?
Prohibitive means like you kind of want to prohibit the accused from getting freedom.
Why? I thought he's a
That is why I'm saying Nicholas Opio, who argued that case, and I've not seen him complain, at least in the public, should have known what arguments were raised by state. Because the prosecution argues his case, like the gravity of the matter and whatever grounds are raised. Now it is upon Opio to counter that kind of argument. So I would want to hear from Opio, why did he lose it to the extent that 20 was given?
Okay.
So, but it is a discretional role of the judicial officer. And as I said earlier, the case of whether or not judicial officers are independent or manipulated, as General Muntu is saying, is a running battle.
Depends
Tomorrow it is ruled in favor, oh, they are
it's
good.
a 6 or
the
a
next
9.
day it is ruled against, oh, they are bad.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing 6, you're seeing 9. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for watching. I have Julio Hilk. You are live from Luemi Yagase Mbabule. You're saying Team Honorable Sechikubo forever. Rujumbura Media TV, thanks for hosting General Muntu. Tumukwasibwe Vincent, salute to our General Muntu, love you. Then Tumuhimbise Hillary, you are also watching and you say our man is here. Please send your man tough questions, because when we come back from this short commercial break, we'll be starting off on those particular questions. 2025, and of course how political parties are prepared to host a 40-year regime and counting. That and much more. Let's take a break now.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Project
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that break. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga and you are watching the Hotline Show. This evening I have a founding member for the Alliance for National Transformation and of course former CDF of Uganda's army, General Gregory Mugisha Muntu. And I also have a former revolutionary as well, though he was got when he was still young. I still argue that he was a child soldier then, that he is now the Director of External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. It's a privilege to have you gentlemen once again. I'll start with you, General Muntu. You are not participating in the next election. Is that true?
What do you mean?
Are you not vying for presidency in the next election? Is that true?
Why did you pick that?
That's why I'm asking. It's a sentiment that some Ugandans have.
No, we are people who don't put the cart before the horse. So we're working on all the things that are necessary for us to be able to fill candidates at all levels.
Are you?
And unfortunately, our culture, our political culture, is used to individuals. You know, they keep on pressing, are you running, are you not running? As if that is the most important thing. Yes, even when you run. If you have not put in place the necessary infrastructure, the logistical support, the kind of networks that will enable you to win right from grassroots at LC 3 level, LC 5 level, MP, and then presidential. So the people are used to, when you intend to be a candidate, you project yourself even before you work on the others. For us, we prefer work on those things which are necessary. Yeah. Then even when you come out in the event that the party feels you, that you have got the necessary backup to prepare you right from the candidates down to the presidency to take power. Because again, our approach is we don't want to depend on an individual. Many people think that a good candidate or a powerful candidate is the one who will prepare you into power. To some extent, it's correct. The individual must have trust from the population. The individual must have support in the population. But in our case, as Alliance for National Transformation, our ultimate objective is transformation of this country. And we know that there is no single individual, however good he or she is, that can transform this country unless they have built a team. And that team needs to be built right from grassroots. You have LC 3, LC 5, LC,
you have been
as now we are going into, because unfortunately we've not completed our program of reaching out to all sub-counties, which was our intention. But even then, what we want to work on is branding and marketing of the party to attract good candidates at those levels. LC 3 chairpersons, mayors, LC 5 chairpersons, councillors, MPs, so that we have a bulwark of good candidates, a good message, a good brand, and a good presidential candidate.
Wait.
So that even when the party takes power, it is able to use all those skills that it would have built to transform the country.
Yeah, it is. I also agree with you, and I was going to ask you about that. But you have been doing grassroots mobilization for the last 5 years prior to this particular election. So one would
not
say,
to our satisfaction, because we had limitation of resources, would have desired to reach every sub-county. We have not been able to do that. And now, of course, we cannot continue with that strategy. So we'll have now to shift into electoral cycle mode.
that's why I'm asking, are you standing for president in 2026?
You've not listened to me.
I have,
Yes.
and you have talked about the grassroots and how...
Because, for example, the presidential is in November, right? Why go into that before you now work on the candidates for LC3, LC5, councillors, MPs, mobilize the resources, then do internal internal coordination, and then say, okay, we've built this bulwark, or this network of all these candidates, and we need a spearhead. Because the presidential candidate is simply an arrowhead or a spearhead, the one who projects the message of the party, the one who projects the image of the party. And then also as a cover for all these others down here. So we are in those processes, and down the road we'll sit down and agree internally and say, okay, we have mobilized, we have branded, we have projected our message. We also need a presidential candidate. Whom should we field? Should we field Muntu? Should we field anybody else? No problem at all. So in that regard, once we do that, in my own estimation, it means that we'll be putting the horse before the cart. I see many people who put the cart before the horse, as if it is the cart which pulls the horse. It's the other way around. Okay,
I get you, but you have mentioned that there is a lot of inconsistencies and irregularities, in fact, in a negative light on this show as we are starting.
Yes.
Why continue to indulge in the very same electoral processes, the very same politics, yet you already know how it's going to end up?
No, we don't know how it is going to end up.
You've just said that it's going to be having a lot of violence and inconsistencies. So, how do you know?
Yeah, there can be violence, there can be inconsistencies, there can be manipulation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever they intend to do will necessarily enable them to win. We believe that if you are able to do a number of things on our own side as opposition, that we can overwhelm this regime. That's one aspect. The second aspect is we are not building a party around an electoral cycle. We are building a party to transform this country. So an electoral cycle will come, like this one will participate in, believing that we can take power. But even if we don't manage to take power, we keep building, because our ultimate objective is how do we transform this country? One, the whole culture of our society is rotten. The only way any party is going to transform this country is to appeal and also attract men and women of integrity, men and women who are value-driven. Taking power is one thing. Using it to transform this country is totally something different. That's why I disagree with many people who seem to think that, the moment Jerome 7 is out, everything will be okay. But that's how it's been since 1962. We are fighting a culture. Jerome 7 is a symptom of that culture. As Mwanga was, as Amin was, as Obote was. So if we don't change that culture, it is easy for any other group which goes in to basically become the same. Different faces, different names, different gender possibly, but doing the same things. And we can't accept that. That's why we know that there are Ugandans who believe in transformation of this country, who believe that there can be justice, who believe that there can be transparency in the management of national resources, who believe that there can be equal opportunities, who believe that there can actually be a machinery of governance that can be established that will deliver services. That's what we keep focusing on. So even when we participate in an election, we participate in to take power, but even if we don't do that, we plant seeds.
You're
We
playing.
disseminate a message. We attract more and more people. For example, the message we sent in 2021 has really been good in terms of our exercise that we've been doing. Because wherever we go, we meet people who tell us, you guys, you're on the right track. Don't give up. Remain steadfast. So there's no way we can lose an opportunity of disseminating that same message. And galvanizing,
playing as if you are in a
those honest men
democratic-
and women whom we want to attract.
You
at
argue
all
that,
levels.
there is no democracy, but you're playing in a democratic dispensation. It's like the way you're playing your politics is like we're in a mature dispensation. It's like we're in the USA.
You see, we are in a war.
Aren't you oblivious of the
We are
reality
in a
on the
war.
ground?
We are in a war, a political war. Some of us who have got a military background, you engage in warfare where there is use of weapons. So you apply your military skills. You apply, put in place a good strategy. You apply good operational methods and tactics, and also weapons. And you must have trained officers and men. You must have trained them in fighting for a particular cause. You must also have trained them to be bold, not to crumble under pressure from the other side. And you keep fighting regardless of the circumstances until you win. In the process, for war, people die. You go and bury them. You know that these ones are done. They have ceased to exist on this planet. Others get wounded. But you continue fighting. So how would anybody ask and say that people are dying in the battlefield? Why are you fighting? Once you have a cause, you keep fighting until victory.
Okay.
So it's no different from the political war that we're engaged in. There is no way we can give up, whatever the circumstances, until we create a country where there is sanity, where there is justice, where there is transparency in the management of national resources, where there are equal opportunities.
Okay, let me first bring in Major. Major, what do you think? Some people have these preconceived ideas that the electoral process is not free and fair. And as the NRM, some people believe it's rigged in your favor. That's subjective to scrutiny. But what is your take really on these inconsistencies in the electoral cycle? Is there a way that this affects you as the national resistance movement, or otherwise?
Well, you have asked so many sub-questions there. I will try to fish it out.
Please do.
The cry or the feelings about electoral irregularities continue to be, I think, all over the world. Even in America, you remember the George Bush winning, even in Tanzania and all over in Kenya. Now, my perception and the party position is that we don't participate in irregularities. And the only way to show whether or not is to have test cases or proofs that we don't. You have to prove it by do the negative. For example, if we were really rigging as it is alleged, there is no way you would lose the entire Uganda. At the parliamentary level, there's no way you would lose the vice president, which you had fielded, your incumbent vice president. And there's no way you'd choose to say in the presidential election, let in nearly all polling stations, let our candidate be defeated. So these are tests to say, why then do we choose to rig in a particular area and leave the particular area? And moreover, you are failing to rig in an area where you even have, where there are majority voters for the country.
Yes, sir.
So the issue of rigging for the party, we fight for it. And that's why if you were to rig, why would you rig and win with a 51% or 52, 53? Why wouldn't you rig and win with 80 or 90 or 95? So proofs are there to prove that there's no rigging. Now, about the effect on us.
Maybe on that, I think it's not about the event itself, but the election is always about the process. It's not the end result that the election was rigged. But if you, for example, arrest some agents, you know, if you beat up people, if you deploy the army, don't you think that ambience affects even the vote itself? Can we count that as vote rigging?
Maybe if we were to answer that, the question would have been brought as such. Because if you bracket it together and call it rigging, I'm tempted to answer rigging.
Okay.
But if we are now to address the other activities that influence election, it must be addressed, and it is our cry as well. For example, we have had a continuous cry that if the forces come arbitrarily, it can act as a decampaigning tool against us. So we are always praying that we have limited interference of the forces. At least maybe in areas where intelligence proves that there's a terrorist attempt to destabilize such a kind of voting pattern. But short of that, we don't. So activities that lead to that, including the legal reform, if you may say, because you are now saying let's not talk of the activity of voting itself. We have often said that in as far as law is concerned, the laws are not rigid. They are not frozen. We are free to amend it. For example, I've been talking to my colleagues about the amendment, the intended amendment on what they call electoral reform. I have heard my friends talk around and about and within and talk about electoral reform, but there has been no substantive proposal. I know various jurisdictions handle it different, like Kenya, for example. They have a vetting system, they have that, but nobody we have talked about electoral reform, including Honorable Mao. Mao, who had been talking about it, he has come to as a Minister of Justice. I have not seen anything. Therefore, it is our wish as a party that even prior activities that have effect on the electioning or the electioneering itself should be addressed. We want a fair game. But as far as particular rigging is concerned, please remove it, because evidence proves that we have lost. If we had, we would rig. On the contrary, according to the intelligence information that is fed to Museveni, it is us who have been rigged against. And you heard him say it several times. You heard him say it, that he has evidence to prove that it is us who has been rigged against. And indeed,
the recent one was Kawempe, where you even withdrew the case.
We have known, for example, in the last election, Ziwa in Nakawa East, the guys chased the Ziwa, even from polling our own ballot. And you could see the damage done there, because they chased Honorable Ziwa from even our own voting. So we are also trying to see to what effect that rigging affects us, at least according to the information got. But generally, a rigged election affects us in that it reduces the legitimacy in the eyes of the people. So once you are associated to that, it reduces the legitimacy. It affects the moral outcome of the election itself. So it is our wish and feeling that election is as clean as possible, because we are actors.
You sound too good. You remind me of Tango Doi. He was also saying the same case. You have free and fair elections, but people are saying they are rigging in your favor. Though, let's go back.
Why do you say I'm too good? Maybe I'm very good.
The way you are subject,
you see,
your words actually.
Maybe I'm very good. You see, Karanga, when you say two, even water, when what is too much, then it negatives it. Maybe I'm very good.
Why I say that is to bring some of the things that are in your party primaries themselves in the House. Before we come to the national politics, there are irregularities happening in the primaries, and even people have died before in your primary elections. 2021, I think 6 people died in that particular case.
And there were
You see,
500 petitions.
I will still come in,
for our
but
election.
please, let's continue.
For our election,
How are you ensuring free and fair elections
you see,
in your own party?
for election, first of all, as you hear the word free and fair, meaning it is not possible to have a perfectly good election. There's no perfection. So that's why even in the minds of the constitutional drafters, and I'm glad General Muntu was part of those who drafted the constitution, and even for us in the party constitution, we still keep on the diction, the choice of words, fair, free and fair, not free and perfect. So that one is a perceiving. So, therefore, in a popular party like NRM, expect more competition for the flags. Like, for example, youth, Northern Uganda, for NRM now, we have 22 candidates for one place. Therefore, if you have a party, for example, of Basarila, which one is that party?
JEMA.
If you have JEMA,
Justice Forum.
then you don't expect to have 500 petitions in JEMA, because who will go for the flag for JEMA? Now, for us, we take it as how to manage the popularity. It is a challenge to manage that popularity because we have a party where people are competing for the flag.
But people are dying.
Yes. So, I'm not yet sure about your statistics. I would address
we
it
were
case
here
by case.
with you, sir.
Yeah, I
And
have not yet
I've
addressed. But I
given
can
you
assure
statistics.
you that a popular party like NRM expect more participants, expect more challenges in managing it, because we are managing election bigger than the National Electoral Commission. Why? Because our constitution puts a branch, which is the smallest unit, at a village. So we conduct election up to the village.
As NRM or as government?
As NRM, not government. For example, Electoral
I'm going to
Commission.
fact check
Yes,
that.
Electoral Commission can have a voting center in a parish. Okay? But for us, NRM, we have election in every village. There are 73,000 villages because that is a dictate of our constitution. So we are managing a bigger election than election of a National Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission goes to a parish, puts one voting for 4 villages. NRM goes about 4 voting centers in the same parish.
You must be very rich as a party. But
We try, but we know it is a cost of democracy. Therefore,
cost of democracy.
with the challenge of having a popular party with many people fighting for the flags, you therefore have a challenge of managing that election. You therefore have a challenge of managing petitions. Petitions, we have what we call a tribunal. We have tribunal. And we often have so many tribunals to attend to this. And therefore, for us, we take it how to manage the advantage we have. We have the advantage of the popularity and so many people fighting. How do you manage? It comes with its challenges.
Okay.
I'm not surprised you're saying it leads to loss of death. Have you seen Basanera Party people dying for it?
No, I haven't. Thank you so much. General, there's something you want to submit on that issue?
See, there are things which you get to understand after, with the benefit of hindsight. You know, Major Pollar, which and the many other leaders of NRM who normally appear on these shows make it seem as if NRM, like in the case of where you have 20 candidates, you know, vying for one position, they make it seem as if it is because of the popularity of the party. The fact of the matter is that the majority of people now in this country, and unfortunately many people who are now in politics, are attracted by money. They're looking on how to survive. They're looking, once I become a member of parliament, I'm going to get 30 million plus. So they look at NRM as a gravy train So they are fighting, even if it means the death, to get on that train. I bump into many because there are constituencies where I go, districts where I go, and you find that many people. So you ask them and say, okay, do you believe in what is happening? You say no. So why are you running on the ticket of the NRM? Say, because that's the only way I am guaranteed if I take the flag to get parliament or to get to RC5.
So that means the people love them. The people love them. They love NRM because if one is saying the only way I can serve you is by
because they
getting
know
NRM.
the manipulation of the electoral process. They know that. It's not that the people love them. The people, they also have their own problem. Because in this country, actually there are three problems. The problem of leaders who don't care about the country, who don't care about the people. The people who are confused because they have literally lost hope. They don't think that anything good can happen. And that's why even when there are people who are competing, the population says we need ours now. Because the moment you leave, we're not going to see you again. And then we have a problem of the weak middle or political class. People who are looking at how to survive. That's where the problem lies.
Okay.
Eventually, that happens in quite a number of situations in different countries, where you find that state of affairs. But eventually, when there are men and women who are bold, who are resilient, who are focused, who are disciplined, and they keep fighting, eventually they turn the tide. So once the tide is turned and they're able to take power, that's when, with the benefit of hindsight, people now start recognizing the things which are being denied now. They find them, they become public. They become public. Everybody knows that, oh, this was going wrong, all these malpractices and all that and all that. It becomes a fact. People accept that.
Okay, General.
So now what we need to focus on, to me, is not so much whether people think that NRM is popular or not popular, or whatever it is. Those of us who want to see change, transformational change in this country, is not to give up. Because that's where the solution to the problems of this country lie.
Okay.
General 7 is concentrating on breaking down leaders systematically to exacerbate the problem which the population already has. Because every time one leader collapses, they buy them, they compromise them, then the population says, so, we're on our own.
Okay.
So the more there are people who are bold, who are resilient, who stand firm, and they collaborate effort, and they stand together, and they are seen as a team, it gives hope to the population.
General,
and therefore you reach a point where they call it a turning point. It always happens. You know, it's like water. If you put on fire and the fire remains, once it reaches 100 degrees Celsius, it will turn, form, and become steam.
General, that's your hypothesis.
Yes.
Why I say that is, in 2021, you got over 67,000 votes in the entire country.
Yes.
There are many constituencies that you did not even have the ability to field a candidate in those particular constituencies, be it member of parliament, be it even down to the last positions.
Yes.
Aren't you outrightly lying to Ugandans when you say the other person is not popular, and yet this person has a unit, the smallest unit, a village. He has people there. Yes. And he has a nationalistic outlook. There are constituencies where you are not. So isn't just a man stronger than you?
You see, if you look at the situation as it is now, and you don't make comparisons with where we come from, as a society, as a people, as the nations, you will not understand what I'm talking about. We have had autocrats since creation. We have had people whose main focus is self-advancement and oppression of the people they lead. Since creation, All of them have been eliminated. We have also gone through phases. We even came from kingdoms, we went to medieval times, we went through all nature of political systems that we've got. We've reached where we have reached so far. Why? Because of the resilience of the people. Human nature, as we are created, people want to be free. You can suppress them for a while. But eventually, as long as there are those who are bold amongst them, who keep leading them, organizing them, they always move the next phase. Basically, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm an example. In '81, when we went to the bush to fight, people thought we were nuts. There is absolutely no way they thought that you could fight a war internally within the country without any real base, no country that you border with, and that you could take power.
Yeah,
I argued with the colleagues at the university, even before I left. I didn't even know what was happening there. You know, UPC colleagues. And I would tell them, we are going to take power. They would say, you are simply a nut. I went to the bush. We had less than 40 guns, we were less than 100 people. For the 5 years we were fighting, at no point did I ever think that we would not take power.
You had the Wananchi. You had the Wananchi.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even now,
here it doesn't look like you have them.
Just a second. 2021, Buganda had been a support stronghold of NRM. 6 months. It turned in 6 months. So Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of UK, said one time that a week is too long in politics. We have 6 months. Who knows what kind of dynamics will unfold? Who knows? So to me, I never look at the circumstances around or the environment in which I operate. I look at, is there a cause? Is it a right cause? Do I believe in it? Am I resilient? Am I bold? Yes. Then you go in there. Then you link up with people who are alike. And I can tell you, as day follows night, eventually you take power. I keep referring to that. I know that people look at us, and that's the nature of people. If they don't see you with masses, they will dismiss you. But fortunately, in this current technological era, we are recorded. So down the road, people will see what we are talking now. And actually, that's when they believe. Because one thing I know is that there will be change in this country. 2, those of us who are NT, what we are building, we believe that there is a point when we'll be in power, and we know for sure that the way we are focused, the way we are disciplined, the way we have the convictions to transform this country, that we will start a transformational process and will transform this country. That one I know. Now, someone who is listening like now can dismiss and say, these people are just simply talking heads, politicians are like that. But down the road, when they look back with the benefit of hindsight, because it will have become self-evident when what I'm talking about actually happens, that's when they'll believe. That's why I'm not perturbed. Even when we engage in an electoral process and we do not perform as well as we would have desired, it does not perturb me. Why? Because I know we have a right cause, a justifiable cause. So what we have to put behind that cause is a number of people who have got the convictions, who are bold, who are resilient, and who are disciplined. And you keep building until we reach that destination.
You use the word linking with people alike.
Yes.
You have failed to do that.
No.
You divided and left FDC.
Yes.
One would have said you'd have linked with alike people.
No, because our thinking was different. They believed that they would use street actions to take power. We did not want to become a burden to them after we lost power. And we said, look, continue. We will not remain here and keep internal fights, which will create paralysis. So you have a free hand, organize around that. If you're able to take power, okay, invite us. And we started afresh around what we believe in. And there are many young people who come. The other problem, of course, which I know is in this country, people are looking at numbers. Yes, numbers are important, and numbers will come. But every day we get a young man or woman whose thinking is consistent with what the party stands for. And we see boldness in them, and we see resilience in them. Then we know we have struck a gold
How
mine.
different is the vision of Mugisha Muntu,
Yes.
Kizza Besigye,
Yes.
Robert Kyagulanyi for Uganda? How different are you?
Just have to listen to us and then make your own judgment.
What I'm trying to say without
I
saying
suppose
it,
if you listen to us,
Yes.
you make a conclusion, certainly.
but one would say you have the same goal.
Yes.
Why not work together?
One thing which everybody in the opposition is uniform is taking power. But if you follow what we talk about NT, day and night, we keep talking about taking of power and post-taking of power. That's why we keep organizing in the way in which we organize. You can't give what you don't have. So if you want to use power effectively to do the number of things that we keep talking about in NNT, transparency of managing national resources, justice, equal opportunities, you must build a team of men and women who think like that. Because the moment they think like that, and they have convictions about those principles and those values, it means that the moment they're in power, that's what they will give. But if you manage to take power, when you don't have convictions around those values, what will you give? You'll give what is in you, whatever is motivating you.
Let's look at
let
history.
me tell you.
General, let's look at history.
There are things we know we could do. There are things we could do, as is done in politics globally, to popularize ourselves. There are things we could do. Yes, and we will do them. But you see, we failed things. We need pillars. This building we are sitting in now, without pillars, it can't stand.
Yes.
It can't. You need robust pillars.
But
where
you did this in the past. In the past, NRM forged unity with some other fighting forces to take over power, and it worked. Why don't you say, let's unite
we
now,
took power,
and then we can
what
and
happened?
solve the problem?
So why are we in this crisis? Because the people who were thinking on how to use that power responsibly eventually were in a minority. And those who believe in power as an end in itself are the ones in charge. So why do you think it would be any different now if any group takes power and the majority of the people in that formation are the ones who look at the taking of power as an end in itself, not as a means towards a particular end? Because, you see, to me, if my philosophy, if my thinking was that power is an end in itself, why on earth would I have left NRM? I would just be there having, I suspect, advantages that you don't find in the opposition.
If you were a CDF before 30, that means where would you be now?
I don't believe in power as an end in itself.
But I'm thinking
I'll be there,
alienating,
comfortable, but is that the end?
Aren't you alienating yourself from other people that could push the vision themselves? Be more stronger, united.
Let me tell you, our understanding of strength is different. People can look at NRM because it is in power, because it has numbers, because the police and army are behind it, and therefore they make a conclusion that it is strong. It is weak. Because we have seen governments like that. Why do they collapse? But we have a cause. And as long as we are consistent with that cause and the values we talk about, that gives us strength. The population never understands that until that strength actually manifests. And in our case, it will manifest. And that's why I don't engage in
But
argument.
it looks like you are.
When it does,
Won't you have to invite General alone one day?
because
The way you're
For you are a
moderating now,
panelist, but
you may have
General
to
is a
make
guest.
one show
Though,
one time.
though you are still coming.
when that manifestation comes, that's when there'll be clear understanding of some of the things that we talk about right
Let
now.
me come to the Major. Major, I wasn't alienating you, but I was putting General on the spot. He says they have a cause, and there are some inconsistencies, and how we have even reached here as Uganda is that NRM may have diverted from their main original goal. For this particular election, sir, do you have a cause to serve Ugandans? And many people think that your government is at the weakest, though it looks strong. What's your comment on that?
First of all, as I interrupted, I saw you are moderating, making it a bilateral. And General Muntu knows that me as a disciplined cadre of NRM, I wouldn't interfere because that is the discipline we have. So I watched you going on and on and on, and I was disciplinedly watching. So I was suggesting you may have to invite Afande Muntu one day on one by one than doing it this way. Now, first of all, there are some comments that I wanted to comment, which was raised by Honorable Muntu about whether or not people, or even if you assert that people who win NRM is because of the material gain, to some extent would plead guilty. Because our approach is that to address the issues of Uganda, we need to address their material needs, but legitimate material needs. Every human being, before it even acts into politics, need to eat, to drink, to clothe, to house, health. So, and this is our basic approach to the materiality of a person. And that is why it forms our multiplicity of approach. PDM, all this and all that, you know. And all this, by the way, crystallizes into what may appear abstract, life expectancy increasing. It generates from the simple materiality. Now, we don't believe that a person will have an abstract consciousness and believe in wrong or right. We believe that the consciousness is formed by the small material interest that we have. And that is to the extent that I was saying we would plead guilty if that is the accusation that people come to NRM for material. We believe a human being must eat, must clothe, must shelter, must do that. And that is our approach.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, if that is what we have chosen, the meeting of material interest, the material livelihood and well-being of the people, and it attracts them, and it is legitimate, we shall continue it. Now, this is to juxtapose from the ideal, say, political money. No. But still, it emphasizes the fact that consciousness is determined by materiality, not the other way around.
There are some direct cases where you have paid people, NRM candidates have paid voters.
It works across the board.
Okay.
Now, so I wanted to emphasize that, that if a person is coming to fight for a flag because he knows it meets his material interest, we plead guilty for that. Because we are not living in a world of dreams. We know that consciousness is derived from meeting material interests. So I wanted that clear. The other thing I wanted clear because of, if you ask that don't they come for the flag because they know there's the popularity.
It's a question I asked him.
He says they come because they know there's manipulation. It can't. Because if that was the case, we would have manipulated for the daughter of Haji Kigongo, would have manipulated for the vice president Sekandi, would have manipulated for who is the minister of energy now, Nankabirwa, would have manipulated for all this. How then do these people choose to come, Nankabirwa choose to carry the flag and hoping a manipulation, and it is not manipulated? How does the vice president secondly choose to come for the flag, hoping for the manipulation, and there's no manipulation? So that argument collapses. That argument collapses on that. So they come for the fact that this is a flag that has ground support. And that is clearly manifest in a bigger part of the country. In the entire Western Uganda, the entire Karamoja, right now coming to the entire Northern Uganda, that is it. So, I want to put that.
Is it okay if he answers that question that you posed?
Wait,
okay.
I beg you, wait, because
okay.
I've really given you enough time.
Yes, please.
Now, again, I know General Muntu doesn't throw words around, and therefore every word he talks, he means it. And he uses his diction, his choice of words like, this is why we have the current crisis. So in my notebook I was saying, do we have a crisis or not in the country? My view is that there's no crisis. What is happening now is the normal dynamics of a political situation in a country, the normal contradictions that exist in every processes and in every phenomenon and in every society. So there is no crisis. It is a normal political dynamics that happens. So to use the word a crisis, it would be a misplacement of words or using an otherwise stronger word. Otherwise, there's normal governance. Actually, what is seen is the effect of democracy, that actors are there, that political parties are vying, and therefore you see like a movement of various forces. Now, this brings me to your question. Your question was, I wanted to clear this first. Your question was how like we are...
how you are preparing, but it looks like you are at your weakest, according to some political players here.
On the contrary, we think we are at our strongest. And we can use the test. For example, during this Sikawempe North election, you didn't see me. Why? Because I was nominated on a body, a small committee, which was negotiating with 11 members of parliament in Acholi. 11 who were, so to say, crossing. In other words, they have agreed to work. 11 non-NRM MPs.
Yes.
Who were, you must have seen my photo when we appeared in State House.
Yes.
So, how are you going to tell me or convince anybody that this ruling party is at its weakest when, leave alone the ordinary voters, the MPs are crossing en masse, not one, not two, not three, 10, 11, crossing in mass? Does that talk of a weak party at its weakest?
There are also some crossings from NUP earlier on.
Yes, they're crossing from NUP. I sit at the party headquarters. Every day we are burdened with people crossing. Every day. I can show you on my phone that somebody is saying we have now gathered 4 chairmen of the division from Gul alone. Division, remember, a sub-county is a unit of local government. It's a strong unit of government, local government, which can be sued and can sue. It is a legal entity. People are crossing every day. So the insinuation that we are its weakest does not suffice. It collapses because we have evidence to that effect.
Okay.
And also, as we keep saying, we have continued to implement our manifesto. The same thing, the manifesto that continues to affect or improve the livelihood of the people. And not only again in abstract, it is crystallized and the outcome is the life expectancy. Again, I hope you saw that this year's happiness index again, Uganda again leads in the region. Far better than Tanzania. 4.5 in the measurement. Tanzania is 3.8. So, regardless of the apparent contradictions, which is manifested through the democratic processes and through freedom of speech, you see that we still, this year 2025, Uganda still led in happiness in the region. and the best performing currency in Africa.
That's true.
The best performing money.
Over the last year.
Yes. So all these multiplicities of events are showing. And therefore, to say the party in power, by extension its government, are at its weakest, is not true. Okay. There are indicators to prove that.
Thank you.
The whole system is heading towards a crisis. Both of you are young, so but let me recall some instances in the past. There's a tendency when governments are in power never to see the weaknesses that they do have until the crisis actually erupts. In 71, when Amin took power here in Uganda, the crisis started brewing from 1967. I was still a young boy in primary, but because my father was a politician, I would be sitting in the sitting room and hearing politicians, UPC from all over the country would be coming through. And you'd hear them talking in whispers and debating what is the things normal, are they abnormal, what is going on, and all that, and all that. Until 71, when there was even a debate about whether Obote should go to Singapore or not. And it seems those who said, this situation is just temporary, it's nothing. Forget about it, just move. He went. Took over. Many in the regime never had a clue that something like that could happen. Again, in using the same example, in 1985, UPC used to celebrate its Heroes Day in Bushenyi. I think it used to be 27th of April or May. I don't know exactly which particular day, but one of those 2 months. And the late Dr. Milton Obote was there in Bushenyi, and there were celebrations. Even when you look at the speeches, actually they were heading towards the elections, I think the next year. So there was a sense of confidence within UPC that they were in charge and nothing was, going on. The guerrillas had run to Congo and, they were going to primaries of the party and blah, 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 blah. In July, Dr. Milton Obote was crossing the border. Some of the security people were even arrested in Kampala. They had no clue about what was happening. There was a coup. When people are in power, there's a tendency that they never see what is happening around them. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay. Now, you look, let me give you a small example. The army is a key factor in the stability of a nation. To me, I know the army to be the foundation of the stability of a country.
Yes.
We've been talking about an issue, for example, the issue of General Muhoozi, the CDF. He's all over the place, tweeting this, tweeting that, causing diplomatic crisis almost between Uganda and other countries, with Sudan, with Congo, DRC. Now, there are people who don't read anything in that. They say, oh, this is not serious. Just let it pass. Many don't seem to understand the implications of that.
What are the implications?
The commander-in-chief either doesn't understand the depth of the problem, or he understands it and he doesn't know yet how to handle it. A CDF is not an ordinary man on the street. The word of a CDF needs to be measured because it has implications. You have seen a diplomatic grievances being raised, specifically Sudan, Congo. There are many others.
And Kenya.
And Kenya. To the point where even the CDF had to, the commander-in-chief had
to apologize, yes.
This is a general on top of an army, under whom the other generals. These are human beings. They know they can't do the same thing and survive even for 1 week. They know that. I know that in NRM there hasn't been any boldness yet from what I detect in any meeting to bring this matter firmly to the attention of the commander-in-chief. They are all playing safe. But you are talking about a country of 45 million people. You are not talking about an individual, even when that individual is a president. And then a CDF who happens to be a son. Some of us on the sidelines, you can't even decipher who of the two is manipulating the other. Is it the CDF manipulating the commander-in-chief who happens to be the father? Is it the commander-in-chief manipulating the CDF who happens to be the son, or what? Because at times there can be issues which are not public, which are not even political, maybe they are psychological, or whatever else, and they happen out there, and you don't know them.
Okay.
But they can be a source of a bigger problem if they are not managed.
General,
So
as you conclude.
if there are people who can't decipher that, then you have a problem as a country.
Let me read some of the messages of Ugandans. Nasuna Tahia, thanks for the show. I would like to have an expert opinion of General Muntu on the issue of our defense expenditure vis-a-vis critical sector funding justified by the foreign deployment in Congo and now Sudan. Is the regime narrative the correct and only correct path? How much must Ugandans bear in the name of supporting Pan-Africanism? Greetings to Honorable Mayanja Robert. Then Brooke Williams, you say, General Muntu, we have 3 categories of people. You've quoted him: leaders who don't care about people, people who are confused, and people who lost hope. United, we can get out of this captivity. He continues to say the regime fought hard to see that Muntu don't get leaders in last election because they know his capability if he gets resources. I'm sure about that. Then there's Wilberforce, who you said tag excited noob celebrities. Then there is NRM is weak and unpopular. Hanson, you say following robbering, stroke breaking NUP officers, ballots, clothes, use them, claiming saying, changing to robbers movement. What a shame, gentlemen. I don't know what exactly you are saying. I'll just maybe end with that. As I come to the conclusion of the show, I'd like to hear in from Major Pollar, which as you give us your parting shots, generally, what do you think is 2025 going to look like, especially in the eyes of the national resistance movement? As you give us your parting shots.
2026 or 2025-26
Yes.
is that we are in the electoral cycle provided for by the Constitution. We are prepared logistically to handle the matters at hand. We have prepared our register, a thorough register this time. We hope we don't get issues. We have released our roadmap. We have also been perusing through our manifesto of 2021-2026 to see what we have done, what we have not done.
Yes, sir.
And so that we shall see what we have not picked, what we have not done to pick up in the next Kisanja manifesto. We hope that the game is fair, and we want to participate equally like any other party. We know that the people are the deciding persons, and therefore we are going with all the humility to the people, and we expect our partners, our colleagues, our other actors to follow the rule of the game.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the hotline. General, your parting shot. as we conclude?
We are working as Alliance for National Transformation. We are working on our roadmap. Very soon we will disseminate it. We intend to fully participate in this electoral process with the desire and the belief that we can actually overwhelm this regime. But nevertheless, whatever the outcomes, that we're a party that keeps focusing on how to take power and transform this country. And fortunately, we have leaders who are resilient, who are disciplined, who are focused. And therefore, whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, we are not perturbed, because we know that we reach our destination. The end state which we put in our minds of taking power and transform this country, we know we'll achieve that end state. Come rain, come shine.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a privilege and an honor for me to host you this evening. And of course, our viewer who has been watching us from the time we started at exactly 7 p.m. I see it's 9 p.m. right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do follow us on our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda, at Digitalk TV, on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. Remember, we have these conversations to build a better Uganda, and I hope there's something that you have learned from the submissions that have been made this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. On the Mighty Drive show, we shall be having Makindye West aspirant, that is David Musiri. He'll be with us here from the National Unity Platform, and we'll be talking about that and much more. So please do tune in tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. I'll be here to have a conversation with you. From the entire team, God bless you, enjoy your evening, and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.